Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton, Knave. We're doing King Crimson, we're not worthy, but we're doing live at the Marquee today. Collectors Club number 1. Club 1. The very first Collectors Club item. It's another audience recording, unfortunately. This is allegedly the show the day after Hyde Park, so it's 6th of July. Supposedly their best show. It is a shame about the sound. This is like an audience recording, whereas Hyde Park was an exceptional audience recording for the time. This is a typical good audience recording for the time, which is a shame because it is a fantastic performance. Typically, I mean, I can kind of understand. I can understand that in the big pressure show is never going to be as good as the next day when they can sort of let loose, and straight away you can hear the energy level is higher. It's a fantastic performance. Cuts in the first chorus of Schizoid Man, so you know it's not a high fidelity recording. It's very important for a couple of reasons, the CD itself, because, well, first of all, it's our only live I Talk to the Wind, which I'll talk about in a bit. Interestingly, there's actually a bit of a screw up at the start, in that Ian MacDonald kind of misses his cue, and then there's a bit of a sustained note, and then he has to come back in again on the 3-4 section. But I can understand it's more that, you know, it doesn't matter, because we're playing, and he's just getting ready to let rip, which he does. I think it was around this sort of time when a lot of the sort of mythology and stuff that the band members say about King Crimson was sort of created. The notion that music creates the band, not the other way around, and that the music plays through you rather than you playing the music, which is a sensible thing to apply to playing music. You don't have to take it literally. I wonder if Fripp may well actually literally take it as a spiritual thing. Michael Giles talks about it also. I don't know whether he does take it quite so literally. I certainly think it's something you should think about. It's something musicians should do, or certainly think about. And what you're really doing, I think, is accessing your subconscious. Really, the music plays through it. You've got to let your creativity come through. If you let your ego get in the way, it's never going to be good music. That's what I think. I don't think it's anything literally magical stuff happening. In Ian MacDonald's diary for this time, he wrote, "Came back with 9 chicks," which is fascinating for a couple of reasons. One is it shows how young they were to talk like that. They're making this music. It's unbelievable. It certainly didn't happen when I did my first gig, but less said about that the better. 4 pints of cider before a concert? Really? Arguably though, having said all of that, it's possible really the most important thing on here is the bonus track, which is a track called Trees at a different concert, which I'll talk about in a minute. The concert starts with 21st Century Schizoid Man. Of course it does. The energy is high. But like I said, there's actually a little, not a train wreck, but MacDonald actually stops the 3-4 theme at the start and then starts again. But he might be that sort of stopping and adjusting mic volumes and stuff to get it right. The guitar solo is way better than the day before. I mean, way better. A lot of energy in that. But the sax solo is utterly awesome. I mean, Ian MacDonald at this point was on fire. You know, you really realise that the Hyde Park one was not that great, and the unison bit, the stop-start unison bit, is really fast. They were playing it ever so fast by this point. They'd obviously just got faster and faster and faster, and I think they kind of slowed down when they went to America. Track 2 is Drop In. This is the first time we've talked about Drop In. Drop In was actually a Giles Johnson Fripp track called Why Don't You Just Drop In, written just after the album, and I assume Ian MacDonald was involved with that as well, maybe. I've always found it comparable to Get Thy Bearings. I prefer it. Interestingly, Greg Lake has a writing credit on it, so he must have done something to it which is different from the original. So I don't quite know what he contributed, but he definitely contributed something. Obviously this was appropriated later on into the letters, and I think the vocals here, I mean, I'm a big fan of Boz, actually. I think Boz's vocals is great, but the vocals are subtler. They're also harder to hear, obviously, because we haven't got very good recordings of it, but having said that, regardless, it's a saxophone vehicle. That's obviously why it was sensible to bring it back when they had Mel Collins as well. And it is fantastic. There's fantastic saxophone playing on there. And obviously, because of the sound quality, the better versions aren't necessarily the best performance versions. They're the ones that have better recording quality, but still, it's great. Track 3 is I Talk to the Wind. Now this is the only live performance on the CDs of I Talk to the Wind. It was actually removed from other releases because the Mellotron was out of tune. What they found was, particularly when they went to America, when they plugged in everything, the voltage went down the mellotron went at a different speed and it was in a different tuning. It wasn't like a semitone down, it was like a microtone down, half a semitone. So I wonder why, if it was that bad, why couldn't they have tuned the band to the mellotron, turned everything on, and tuned the band to the mellotron? Maybe it wasn't that simple. Maybe it moved up and down as they played. Maybe, in which case there was nothing they could do. Live, I Talk to the Wind is different. Greg Lake sings it differently. I get the impression he wasn't really into the way the album version was performed, which is very light. This is much more of a Greg Lake thing, if you like. It's much more typically Greg Lake, or what he became, if you like. Apparently, Fripp's diary for this moment mentioned Greg Lake's bass sounding like Chris Squire, which is really interesting. That's what they're going for at this point. And obviously, yes, they're on the touring circuit, but they're not having much success. They're not selling albums at this point, not for a while. So it's interesting. That's what they were going for. Yeah, I mean the fact that he would say Chris Squire and not John Entwistle, for example. Track 4 is Epitaph. This still starts with the loud vocals at the start. It starts at full volume rather than building up. There's an idiot. There's a bit of tape wobble in the middle as well, which kind of, it spoils it, obviously. Probably a fantastic performance of that song. The flute solo is fantastic. It might be the best flute solo. It can't be the best recording of Epitaph, obviously, because of the problems. Track 5 is Travel Weary Capricorn. Strangely, that includes mantra. It is mantra, Travel Weary Capricorn. And we have a long mantra, and you realise they're really abridging it on Hyde Park. You can't hear half of, at least the drums, you can't hear half of it anyway, but it is great. It's a great listen. I think there's a certain atmosphere, obviously, you get with audience recordings. I mean, some people talk nonsense about them. I think that you have to get the ear for them, that you can't hear the truth in there. And I think really what happens is you fill in the blanks yourself, is what really happens. And of course we go into Travel Weary Capricorn, another good version of Travel Weary Capricorn. It's probably the best playing from 69 on there. Obviously the sound is an issue. We haven't got many of those, of that song. This is probably the best one in terms of performance of what we can hear. Track 6 is Improv. Now strangely on some of the other CDs you've got Mantra, Travel Weary Capricorn, Mars, and the Improv isn't listed. But here the Improv is listed. Lots of real noisy stuff. There's a call and response bit. More noisy stuff that you can't really hear properly. It's just distorted. Just they've got that silly bit again that they play, and then into Nola. Fripp plays Etude No. 7, which is very Fripp actually. So it's very understandable why they would play that. And there's a sort of pretty bit which is very sort of reminiscent of Lady of the Dancing Water. It's not Lady of the Dancing Water, but it is reminiscent of that style of stuff. And then there's a bluesy bit. A bluesy bit, you see. And then a fantastic sea into Mars. Makes Hyde Park sound like children playing it. And as I said last week, it's only Mars, but oh my god, it's Mars! Wow. This is just hinting at what was there, though. It must have been amazing to be there to hear that. Goodness me. Track 8 is a bonus track from Croydon Fairfield Hall, October the 17th, 1969. And the track is Trees. Okay, so Trees was written after they'd done the album. And it's quite a long piece. There's a sort of quiet bit and a vocal bit, and then there's a heavy bit. And bits of it ended up in various places. And the loud bit was really 42-second treadmill, or whatever it's called, from Pictures of a City, or A Man a City as it was originally known. And another bit ended up on another bit ended up on McDonald and Giles. It is inaudible in places. The sound is slightly worse than this show for this CD. But like I said, you put the gaps in yourself, and it's a really interesting listen. Maybe it's the only recording of Trees, so that's cool. So that's Marquee, 1969. One of their best performances, one of their worst sounding recordings available from DGM. Sadly, that's the way it goes. See you next week for Film the East.